ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to start. So what will happen is Bruce just muted everybody and I wasn't paying attention. If for some reason you need to speak, all you have to do is hold down the space key while you're speaking, and when you let go, it will unmute you. However, as always, we prefer that you use the chat button. If you put your cursor at the bottom of the screen, you'll see chat is there. You click on that, it'll bring up a bar on the right side where you can send messages to everybody or to somebody specific, only to someone specific that's on the call. And we suggest you do that. Again, as usual, we will ask you all to hold all questions until the end of the session. We have 4 presentations today. Our vendor presentation is Lowell Smith with RailSmith Models out in Oregon. Our short topic is the NRail YouTube channel by JM Gadoury, who is on the East Coast in Virginia. Our layout tour is Robert Simmons, who is in Central Kansas. And our main topic is an introduction to JMRI by Steve Davis, who is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. If there are no questions, we're going to get right on into our presentation. One other promo, let me just tell you right now, next month, the ZoomTRAK meeting will be on May the 15th, Saturday, May the 15th, same bat time, same bat channel. And I know most of you know what that means. You were around when that was popular. Let's start it off with Lowell. You're up. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Steve and Bruce and everybody for having me today. I really appreciate it. And I've got 15 minutes, so I'm going to keep it right to that the best that I can. I will keep it at 15 minutes. But I thought that I would start with, with my, I've got a little presentation here that I am going to do with share screen. Boom. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, you got the RailSmith logo there?
Yes, we
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. There we go. All right, well, we're off to the races. It's good when technology works. I'm going to talk pretty fast because I'm going to cram a whole lot in a little space here. But I thought I'd start off with sharing. A lot of you guys don't know me, and I just thought I'd share the quick story of my background. I am a model railroader, a railroad modeler. I have loved trains all my life. I love everything about trains and modeling. This is me and one of my best railroad buddies, Roy, at an op session some years back. Here's some key elements for me. I'm anything. So let's see. So 1968, I can't read this, so I'm going to memorize it. You guys can see it. You can tell me what it says. In 68, I got into N scale. I switched from HO to N scale, and I've loved it ever since. In 1985, I started a NRail club with 3 other buddies, the Columbia River N scale group, which has been featured in magazines over the years. In 1990, what does that say? 92? Yeah, see, I got a whole strip of, anyway, I don't want to touch it. In 92, I opened a hobby shop, the Hobby Smith in Portland, Oregon. Read me the next year. I can't see
93.
93. And in 93, we went to the very first N-scale collector convention in Medford, Oregon, Barb and I, and we haven't missed one since. We absolutely love the N-scale community, and now the national N-scale convention as it is, it's really epic. It's a great gathering of the fam, the N-scale family. Let's see, well, then we got 1990 what? 95, what's it say there?
TTTO.
Ah, timetable train order. So it was in 95 when I really got into timetable train order operations. I had a dispatcher that was coming into the shop, my hobby shop at the time, and I really got into operations, really had a good time, brought all the gang in. We had a layout there in the Hobby Smith in Portland. And then in 2017, we launched RailSmith. Barb and I now celebrating 30 years of doing special runs, mostly with micro trains, but with Atlas, Athearn, Intermountain, Wheels of Time, with all the, I've done special runs with them. And this is Barb, my wife of 43 years, and I had a show, and it says my internet connection is unstable. That's just so encouraging. I'm just getting started. Oh my goodness sake. So doing the shows, one of the things that I was very blessed to do was work with the Walt Disney Company, the 440 that we built, that I had Atlas build for me for the Walt Disney Company. And that was years ago. That's a slide that Disney now doesn't want me to show, but I'm showing it anyway. Okay, so I did that for the Walt Disney Company for Bob Olszewski, made Main Street USA. Some of you guys may be aware of that. This amazing piece of art of N-scale Main Street USA Disneyland. Here we go. So on my website, and I'm going to get into all of mostly RailSmith today, but if you go to my website, lowellsmith.net, and here's some drop-down menus of the different series that I've done over the years and continue to do. At the bottom of that page, you see there's where you sign up for the e-news updates. That comes out every month. RPO News Bag, those are blog posts, quite short and to the point of things that are on my mind. Latest on track's going to be the announcements, almost gone, so says for itself and next to ship for itself. The RailSmith models. So in 2017, I approached the Walthers company because I knew that Walthers was always disappointed with their N-scale sales, and they built these beautiful cars that they had run one time. And I said, gee, would you guys like to sell those? And much to my surprise, they said yes. And even more to my surprise, I ended up buying them. And which is really an amazing story on its own. But I've had so much fun. I mean, at this age in this hobby that I absolutely deeply love, I can't believe that I'm expanding the borders so much and learning all the, so there's so many more passenger trains than just what's in the Northwest. So anyway, I've been having a lot of fun with that, and you'd see that on there. So these are classic N-scale passenger cars. We rebranded the Walthers cars, and we call them RailSmith because we can't call them Walthers anymore because they're not theirs anymore. And I adopted a strategy, a plan that I call build a train, because I'm not Kato USA, where we build an entire set at once and put it all out. We're building cars and trains based on the response and interest that you have. And this is the RailSmith, the main page for RailSmith. And when you click on that, you'll see these different logos. And these are, if you click on those, then you'll see the consist and the cars that I am releasing under those schemes or for those particular trains. So on Texas Special, as an example, and there's quite a story about that I won't have time for today, but here's Texas Special, beautiful cars. They'd never been done before in N-scale, and I thought, why not? So I did a few upgrades with the Walthers tooling, and we've done quite a bit of Texas Special cars. You'll see when you click on Texas Special, there's a consist, and the consist shows exactly what I plan to do, or what I am doing, and the cars that we have released, what is open for order, what's sold out, and so forth. And as there's been a response, we build the cars. In the cases, am I going too fast? In the cases where the cars are heavyweight cars, you know, I don't have heavyweight cars, but I have a great relationship with microtrains. And in this case, the bottom car, as you look at it there, is recently produced and released, the Alamo, which is a prototype heavyweight diner that the MKT had, in this case, painted in the shadow line scheme. So quite fabulous. And all of the Texas Special stuff really hit a nerve, and everybody's just been so excited about that. Swatara Rapids, and the Cascade Brim. The Cascade Brim car is a Pennsylvania car that was done for the Meteor, actually. The Meteor. So again, these cars actually also painted at Microtrains, but in most cases, the RailSmith cars are done at the factory in China. So I went through and I selected a few of the trains that to show you guys today, some of the stuff that I'm doing. If you wanted to do the Texas special, as they say, the train's kind of left the station. So there's some few pieces still available. There's still some that will release. But if you want to build the whole train, I guess the fact is it's out there. But yeah, you missed it. The train has departed the station. But there's a lot of other trains that we're doing, that I'm doing. One of them is the 1947 North Coast Limited, which is really a spectacular paint scheme. This is my first uniquely created coach, Pullman Plan 7510, which is specific prototype. They were built in 48, specific for the Northern Pacific, Great Northern, Spokane, Portland, and Seattle. As you see this on the bottom, on this scheme, on this one here, you guys see that there's skirts, because it's prototype for skirts. And then when we did it in the Lowell scheme, it doesn't have the skirts. And these cars were on the North Coast Limited. This car is in stock right now. Those are in stock. There's 3 different road numbers available: Spokane, Portland, and Seattle. That's my railroad. That's my railroad right there. So we've got some Great Northern in the Empire Builder, the Spokane, Portland, Seattle coach, as well as the Great Northern coach. This is a Big Sky Blue. I haven't been real happy with some Big Sky Blue that's been done in the past, so I said, well, let's do some Big Sky Blue and get it as close as we can to right, and everybody's been really happy with that. Based on responses, I hope to build the whole train. So again, at railsmith.net, you'll find these things. Working on the City of Miami. These are coaches, prototype City of Miami, Atlantic Coastline car, Florida East Coast car, and the Central of Georgia car. All 3 of those cars were in the City of Miami train. I just announced last month in my e-newsletter. I do a monthly e-newsletter that comes out with usually 4 or 5 stories, announcements, what's arrived. I just announced the sleepers for some Illinois Central 10-6 sleepers. So I don't have pictures of those today. Here we go, Florida East Coast. Boy, that hit a nerve too, as well as the New York Central. This is the as-delivered New York Central coach. 2 road numbers there, 2 road names for Florida East Coast. There's also 2 Rock Island cars. So Royal Palm is another train. Subway in it. I don't have those cars to show, but some New York Central. I would never know about the Royal Palm if I wasn't going down this new path, because, I really had I had borders in my brain, and I'm having so much more fun now that I'm learning so many more. I'm sitting here in my library, and the library has expanded a bunch. So there's the Royal Palm. One of the more recent pieces, so I am so excited about this train. So this is the Southern Pacific Cascade. This train has never been done in N scale. Right now, the coaches, there's 2 coaches for this train open for order, and that is the art. And I got to show you. So so in the e-news blast that I'll send out at the end of this month, and you can sign up for that if you're not getting it, on the footer of my website, there's a thing where you sign up for the e-news blast, and I'll have the picture of this car, a good picture of it. But I'm telling you, it's just absolutely stunning. I don't know if that's focused or not, but prototype. It's got the plate below the windows, Cascade logo, ball and wing, with the road number of the car. I'm so pleased with the results of these cars. They're just excellent. And so we've got the coaches open to order right now. That particular train had a lot of 10-6 sleepers, so you can watch for that announcement very soon, and so forth. So the build a train concept, we just keep putting stuff out. This is the consist that you'll click on the website. If you click on 1950 Cascade. You'll see the cars that are open to order. What's been announced when they arrive, they'll say in stock. As you saw in the Texas Special, when they're gone, sold out. So did a couple of, there's a whole lot of cars. I'm not showing everything here. I'm just got a splattering of some baggage cars. There's for the Santa Fe. Southern Pacific General Service scheme. Did a whole, I've got sleepers for that. I've got coaches for that. Beautiful cars. They adopted that scheme in 1958. If you click on City of San Francisco, the logo there, you'll see the cars that I've done. These are primarily the yellow cars. Some of these trains have left the station, but I'm telling you, there's still some cars available. Here's 2 coaches with the skirting, brand new tool. This is a unique car. This car has never been done before in N scale. And these are also in stock, Union Pacific and Southern Pacific there. And as I'm coming up on my 15th minute right now, I'll leave you with the blunt end observation drawing, which we are working on. It is a peculiar car in the sense that it is unique to the Southern Pacific Railroad, but I'm doing so many SP trains right now, I have to have an SP. And nobody has seen this drawing. You guys are seeing it first. We're cutting tools on that. So that's really cool. And I'm just having so much fun with, at this point in my life, and I'm still modeling, we haven't been doing any shows, can't wait to do the shows. But at this point in my life, doing the research and learning so much more about all the different trains, your favorite trains out there, and tooling up new pieces. I just can't imagine that I would have been the guy that's going to work on the North Coast Limited or the Empire Builder. I've said that all my life. I said, I want to see this train in my lifetime, right? I want it in my lifetime. Well, I'm not planning on checking out early, but it's been a lot of years that I've been doing this, and still nobody comes out with the North Coast Limited or the Empire Builder. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe it will be me. So anyway, thank you guys very much for having me today. That is my 15-minute nutshell presentation. If you go to the website, you'll see other stuff, lowellsmith.net, railsmith.net. And I just thank you very, very much for having me today. I hope to see you all at a show soon. I think Amherst or Trainfest will probably be the first ones. And if they announce that those are for sure, and Barb and I will be there. Thank you guys. Thank you guys very much.
Just for information, there are some people that have put things on chat, and some of them for you. You can look at them now, and you can answer them live at the end of the Zoom sessions, or you can use the chat and talk to those other people now. But I think you want to stay here because JM Gadoury is going to talk to us next about the newly released NRail YouTube channel.
Is an NRail first. For the very first time during a live ZoomTRAK episode, you are witnessing a fully recorded Zoom session that has been loaded to the NRail channel on YouTube on Thursday of this week. Why did I do that? Well, there's 3 reasons. Number 1, to demonstrate that we all can do many things, amazing things with video tools. And the NRail channel is a tool that we're going to be able to leverage. Just imagine the possibilities of pre-recorded presentations that you might make, and then ads that we just hit play during the live ZoomTRAK video conference. Second reason was because today I'm also presenting a seminar with questions and answers on the world's greatest hobby virtual show. And so just to avoid any conflicts, I went ahead and recorded this. And the third reason is that I am streaming this live from the Richmond area NRail Clubhouse. And we tested this on Wednesday, and our internet wasn't so hot. So just wanted to head that potential problem off at the pass. So getting right into it, I've only got 10 minutes today, and there goes 2 of them. I'm going to give you a tour. We're going on a victory lap. This is the NRail channel that was built for you, and we're going to take a quick tour, see how we got here, and we're going to wrap up with a hint of where the NRail channel will go. So let's go. We've already started right here on the newsletter. Just to summarize, lights, camera, action. In a bid to extend NRail's reach and influence, the board of directors ventured into the world of online video on October 1 last year, 2020. Here's that article that we published. The very last statement of this article is that NRail Roundhouse of NTV, it is the YouTube channel built by you, built for you, and built to inspire you, and you. So the March newsletter, we also discussed that N-scale model railroaders know that one of the highest compliments they can get is when a guest or visitor exclaims, "Wow, that looks so real," when they're videoing your model railroad layout, modular or diorama. And so we really talked in this newsletter article about the mission. NRail has a mission statement that includes this YouTube channel, and that mission is to promote N-scale in all forms, all standards, in many different environments, at many different displays. And so that's the entire purpose of this NRail channel. We're going to talk and show you a little bit how that works. And I'm going to now switch over. There is our YouTube channel. And it's called the NRail N-Scale Model Railroading Channel. You'll notice that from home, we've actually selected playlists. And as I scroll up, you'll see that what we have right now is 10 playlists, everything from relaxing in the sleeper car, cab ride inspections, to the ZoomTRAK archive, shows and conventions. So let's take a dip in here. Let's peek at some of what we presented. What's this relax and ride in the sleeper car all about? Well, just imagine yourself sitting back in your easy chair at home. Maybe you've got your YouTube channel linked to your TV, and you just play this playlist. This is an example of what you can do with a tripod and a cell phone or a smartphone video camera. It doesn't take much to put together some really great videos. N-scale, as we know, does such a great job of forced perspective and making the most out of big scenery. So our ability to introduce trains to animate what we've designed as really quality model railroading, focusing on scenery. That's what this channel is all about. Okay, I'm going to hit pause here, and let's take a look at another playlist. The next one is cab ride inspections. So for an example there, we're going to look at, we're going to dip in at Danville for the 2018 Rail Days, and let's see what we can do with cab ride videos. I believe that every N-scale layout across the country has a series of scenes like this one that just are begging for a engineer's cab ride view perspective. And this is what N-scale is all about. Somebody can look at scenery and say, "Is that real?" We're going to spend some time in the next newsletter articles talking about how you too can create your own YouTube videos, particularly cab rides. All right, back to the playlists. Inspiration. Let's see what's going on there. So my club, Richmond Area NRail, produced the RF&P Model Railroad Show, and we produced what's known as a symphony of trains. This particular video gives the public a perspective of what it takes to produce a train show. And it all begins with loading, obviously, then the setup, then the operations itself, then the takedown. And I think that's very important when you're creating videos that you capture all of the parts of the process so that we can share with the general public and invite them to become part of that process where they can enjoy everything that model railroading has to offer. All right, I'm going to pause this one and go back to our playlists. And well, there's that ZoomTRAK. Let's take a look at that. What did we do with ZoomTRAK in the month? There's Razor again. Let's click play.
And so we're all waiting to hear what you can do with paper mache. Get it away, Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck Peterson.
Thank you a lot for having me on here
This
today.
is fantastic.
And
so I'm going to go ahead and pause this. We just loaded this ZoomTRAK from March. We always load it up about 30 days after it's broadcast live because, you know, this is a membership feature of your NRail membership. And so we wait about 30 days to broadcast it where you can then share it out publicly. But there's so much good information embedded in these ZoomTRAK presentations that you really should take the time, go back and look at them again and again and again. All right, let's take again a look at what's coming up next. Shows and conventions, we already kind of looked at that. Oh, instructional library, let's take a look at that. Corrosion interferes with that connection, you will have inconsistent action. Yeah, just to summarize, that is a video that reflects that dirt is the enemy of N-scale and model railroading generally. But this particular playlist is going to be focusing on all of the tips and tricks that are out there, which is literally lots and lots of videos that we can add to these playlists. And isn't it cool that we can go to one place, one YouTube channel, and find all of this content in one place? We're just wanting to make life easier for folks when they go to the NRail channel. And I think all of the N-scale model railroading we do can really start and get inspired from this channel. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. This is the commercial that all of the world's greatest hobby is viewing right now. In 1973, a ragtag group of model railroaders joined forces to unify 1 to 160 N-scale model railroading. NRail standards and a newsletter emerged. The purpose of NRail is to promote all N-scale standards, maximizing your modeling space, perfectly portable, family-friendly, and ADA accessible. Modules blend into large train shows, club layouts, and even your home display. Both novices and experts all qualify by following step-by-step manuals, interconnecting with others, and running a giant N-scale railroad. NRail layouts combine personally crafted scenery animated by trains while building friendships and community, fueled by everything N-scale represents. For details about NRail modular standards, videos, local shows, and N-scale clubs, start here. Join NRail today and download resources at the store. All aboard. All aboard indeed. All right, so here is, I'm out of time, but I just want you to know to look at your next May-June edition of the newsletter where we're going to begin a project together where we're going to do N-scale club introductions. And we're going to teach everyone how to do a very simple, very quick video that introduces the world to your club. From here, I'm going to pass it back to Razor. Thanks for your time today.
JM is still online, and at the end of the session, he will be here to answer any questions you may have.
Looking forward to it.
I haven't.
Our third presentation today is our monthly layout tour. And with us, we have Robert Simmons, who's out of Central Kansas. He either is currently or has been the district director of the NMRA out in Kansas. And this is his latest modular layout. He's made so many of them, he can't keep track of them. He's a fantastic modeler. And so Robert, if you're ready, please take it away.
Well, thank you. Actually, I'm the vice president of the Mid-Continent region, but I'm also the director of the Western Kansas division. So you can see the banner that I have here behind me. That's actually, you can see at the very bottom here, there are two connections. When we go to train shows, that's actually 8 foot up in the air above the layout so that it's easily seen when people come in the show. Let me hit the share screen here and layout tour and share. Got the full screen now. This is basically just kind of a look at the Western Kansas rails. What I wanted to do is have an N-scale layout that I could take to train shows that would give people in other parts of the country kind of a taste or flavor of what it's like in Western Kansas. And I was fortunate enough, I had heard about the Sipping and Switching Society of North Carolina. I'd seen some of their articles in Model Railroader, but we actually had one of their members transferred out to Dodge for his job. And we met him, and he was showing us how to do all of this right in person. So it made it a lot easier. So when I started out, this is actually a scene. You can see the banner up above the layout. This is the layout on display at the Rocky Mountain Train Show in Denver. And the goals that we had for the layout was we wanted to take the best ideas from NTRAK and combine them with some of the standards of the Sipping and Switching Society and modify them as necessary to make them work. I also, instead of just standing around at a train show and watching trains run around in a circle, I wanted to have operations so that we could take young kids out of the crowd and say, here, you want to run a train, and actually show some of the people what operations are about. Wanted to avoid the 3 tracks altogether, look around the layout. And one of the bugaboos I had with NTRAK was at the 40-inch height. You either had to make a lift bridge module or you had to crawl on your hands and knees. So we raised the layout height up. This is actually a sectional, not a modular. It always goes around in the same direction. So we wanted to have the scenery blend around the layout, basically going from city to county to rural to county to city again. Wanted to upgrade to all code 55 track, scratch build all the track switches. Notice I don't say turnouts. Scratch build or kit bash almost all of the structures. Use real industries and business names, and then try to bring a level of home layout detailing to the traveling public so they can see what we're doing. Now this, let me see if that's, yeah, that's the next one. This is the construction of section number 1, the very first one. And you'll notice that there is no frame on this. This is what they call monocoque construction. It's the same thing they use on aircraft. And basically almost the entire module is 1/4-inch Lowell plywood. So the only real difference is you see on the 2 end plates, they're 3/4 inch for the structural strength of clamping them together. But basically you line out, this is the top of the module is upside down. We're looking at it from the bottom, and this is the interior grid shape. It's all Lowell plywood, wood glue, and a few stiffeners. And this comes out, it's very, very strong. It's very, very light, and it will not whip, twist, or warp. We raised the layout height from 40 to 45 inches. And the layout measures, when it's complete, 18 feet by 24 foot. And we used digital photo backdrops, and we kept them deliberately short in height to make them easier to reach over for operations. Now, this is jumping way ahead in the process. This is where I'm actually doing the electrical wiring, but this is the only shot I have of the bottom skin that goes on it. And this is where you lay out the same grid as you did on this top surface, but you cut out the individual panels. And it's important to note that you need to round the corners like I have done here, because if you have squared off corners, that's a stress point, and you can get cracks and twisting and warping. So this gives you very easy access to the module, but also keeps it very light. This layout does not use the 5-inch track pieces that cross the modules. The tracks butt right up to one another, and you have to have a way to align them. They had actually given me a steel template. It was pretty stout steel, and it had the location of the 4 holes plus where the tracks would line up. I ignored that. And so you drill your 4 holes, and they used a 3/4 inch diameter electrical conduit that I just couldn't find in Garden City. So I wanted to keep the 3/4 inch, so I used wooden dowels. Now you notice here on this one here in the center, it's actually, I tapered it, because if you left it straight, it would be very hard to get it apart, and you would, or together, and you never get it apart. There was just too much friction. So you only need about a 1/4 inch of the base here where it joins to actually complete the alignment. But one of the things that I did, I had a former boss of mine was into woodworking, and one way to speed this process up, you can see where the paint has not filled in the holes where I have an air stapler. And instead of having to clamp everything and walk away from it from a day, you can actually get it clamped, staple it, then take the clamps off and move on to the next project. So that makes it a lot faster. Now, one of the things I wanted to do on this layout was have a variance in terrain instead of just laying the track on the top of the plywood. So these are the modules, obviously right side up. So what I did was I took 3/4 inch plywood and cut them into long strips, which were basically the width of HO scale cork, because I wanted to get the double profile on the ballast. Didn't really work out for me, but we'll get into that later. But on the straightaways, you can just use the straight strips. When you go around the corners, you mark the center line on the top first, because it's very hard to do it later. And then I made these into, I think, 1.5 inch long segments, and you just glue them down, and then they are permanently attached. It gives you a very strong basis to mount your track. Now here you can see this is section number 1 again. We're starting to lay the cork roadbed on top of the plywood, and you can see where there are any gaps. I use lightweight spackling to fill them in so you didn't have holes to fill. And then now this is the rail joining system. The Sipping and Switching Society, being as how they were HO scale, they used 2 flatheads countersunk brass screws underneath the open ends of the rails, and you soldered them to that. I wanted more structural strength because this is N scale, and if you're off by a couple of thousandths of an inch, you've got some real problems. So I'm using 1 inch long steel screws, and I took K&S Engineering 1/4 inch wide brass strip, marked them off in 1/2 inch segments, and then center drilled them. And so once you mount them down, you have to adjust the height so that they just kiss the underside of the rail. Then you can solder everything together as a unit. So this is the sections 15 and 16 where they're joining at the joint. But all of them just butt together just like that. The rails come right together and they're always aligned. Now, the difference is when I went to Oklahoma City back in 2013 with my NRail layout, I worked from 1:30 in the afternoon until 9:30 at night. Now I'm doing it by myself, but I still wasn't done. I wasn't set up entirely until noon on Saturday. It took me over 6 hours to get the whole layout up and set. With this system, me and a helper can get this whole layout up and ready to run trains in 1 hour and 10 minutes. So now this is where you had your track raised above the surface. I wanted to bring the surface back up to relatively the same height. So I use, as you can see here, pink insulation foam board, 3/4 of an inch, that was applied wherever the track wasn't. The advantage to that is I can cut all of my drainage ditches right off the first thing and any landforms. So here on the yard modules, I've got the insulation board sculptured along the outsides of it. So I basically have a guardrail, but it doesn't look like a guardrail. And then on the overall look of the layout, I wanted to get away from the 3 tracks just constantly being together. The outer, or what would be the red line, is basically just a big loop. It's a high-speed line I usually put a passenger train on there, and that's mostly for the kids to go, ooh, look at how fast it's going. And then you have the green line is where my industry switching takes place. So on both of the long sides of the layout, I have a passing siding which runs almost the entire length. And you can see here, I'm just starting to put in my industry sidings. Now the blue line in the middle basically is allowed to meander back and forth between the other 2 tracks. To raise the whole layout up, I decided on using banquet table legs. They're quite heavy, but they're very sturdy and they're easy to just close and open. So I decided on about 45 inches, found some PVC pipe that actually just snugly fit over the legs. And then I was able to determine the length, put caps on them, and then just screw them into the legs. And that way, with that 45 inches, I can just duck under it and walk under it without having to get on my hands and knees. And for the real small kids, it keeps them from putting their hands on top of the layout and ruining some of the scenery. Now, another concept, we wanted the scenery to blend. So you can see that just the upper left corner, we're right at the end of the city scene. We're getting into the county, and then farther off to the right, we're blending more into the rural areas. We wanted to have a theme of Western Kansas. We wanted to blend the scenery all the way around, and this gives you, I tried to make it though, this is actually a model of the actual intersection in Garden City, Kansas. Then we wanted to upgrade to code 55 all the way around. Now on the NTRaK layout I really loved the Atlas Flex Track. It was so easy to use and it looked good when you painted it and detailed it, but I wanted to push every aspect of my modeling on this layout. So we used microengineering code 55, a lot harder to work with, but the results I thought were a lot better. And here you can see the ballast where we're just starting, and you've got a little bit of the double profile here, but in other places the ballast just got a little too thick and didn't quite work out the way I wanted. I think if I had some ideas of how I could do it better. But I also detailed the track itself a little bit differently. So the outer track for the high-speed rail has very few deteriorated ties on it. The middle track has more weathering on the rails, and the sidings particularly are the worst weather. They have more of the deteriorated ties. Then the scratch build switches, I didn't want to have any of the store-bought switches. And so what we ended up doing was using Fast Track's paper templates. Now you can get the jig, but unless you're going to say, I'm always going to use a number 8 switch, you're pretty much stuck with whatever template you buy because they're like 80 bucks a whack. So the paper templates give me a lot of flexibility. I can build just about everything from 4.5 to 15s. And what we ended up doing was using PC ties. Now, one thing to notice, if you look at a Fast Track's template, this is about twice as many PC ties as they use. I like mine bulletproof. I don't want any problems or shiftings later on. So I use a lot more of the PC ties. Caboose Industry ground throws are going to be used. So here I have the connections where they're just going to slip over that. And then it just so happened that when I was designing the yard, I was going to do the typical ladder yard throat. And Model Railroader ran an article about how to do different yard throats. And so I was able to greatly compress it. By the main is over here on the lower right. You had a left hand coming off of that. And I started out with a Y switch that goes into a left and a right. Greatly compresses the yard. Then I also wanted to scratch build the structures. I didn't want people to come and see my layout and say, oh, I've seen that building on everybody else's layout too. And I also wanted an iconic structure that everyone will immediately recognize both from Western Kansas and from this layout. So, and this is an instance of the largest of the 4 grain elevators in Dodge City, Kansas, the Ag Co-op elevator right across from the Boot Hill tourist area. I visited the manager, I took measurements and about 300 photographs. And this is an actual N-scale representation of, it's a scale 128 foot tall of the grain elevator there here in Dodge. Now, the one thing to notice, the difference between this structure, which is a grain mill, and the grain elevator you can see in the back, the Walthers kit, which they market as a grain elevator, is actually a grain mill. It is not an elevator. That's why the silos are so short on it. Now, this is a structure that I always wanted to model. I saw it once briefly on the highway as I went by it. It's actually the General Mills grain mill in Kansas City, Missouri, and that's only 1/3 of it. It's a monster structure. It's U-shaped, and this is 1/3 of the U-shape. But this whole section here is scratch built. All of the shipping dock area here is scratch built, and this area back here is like 4 Walthers kits put together. Then the other thing I wanted to do is use real business names so that anybody that's ever been to Western Kansas or even around the country, in some instances like Walmart, they will instantly recognize the buildings, they'll recognize the names, and it'll give you that sense of realism that you just don't really get. Now in Garden City, Kansas, about 4 or 5 years ago, they had just completed the neighborhood market. We were last to get anything in the country. And so I went over there, took a lot of photographs, actually measured the windows and the doors, and made a small relief scratch build structure of the Walmart. Now, I've always thought that details make the difference. And the layout actually began January 15th of 2014 with some sheets of plywood. So now it's 7 years. The basic construction of the layout is complete. And then every year I keep adding more levels of details to it. So in just this one picture, in this one scene, You have the stop sign back here on the road behind the locomotive with proper road markings at all grade crossings. You've got a detailed HPE, that stands for High Plains Energy, an LP gas truck. Actually, the business is right across the track, so he's waiting to get back. These crossing gates look a little small, but these are actually N-scale crossing gates. The ones that actually have lights that work are actually a bit oversized. So these are scale 3D printed. Wherever there are grade crossings, you have culverts, and I've got culverts on all of the tracks here. You've got the American flag on the flagpole, and you'll notice that even the vehicles have license plates. Right here in the lower corner, you've got the scratch-built chain link fence, and this is a digital photograph. That's actually a scene in Garden City, Kansas. So most of these photographs were taken while we were in the construction process. This is the WKR as it is today. This is the two city scenes put together here. And if you look real close at the tracks, you can see the outermost track, the red line, is barely weathered. The middle track has a little more, and the inner track has a lot more weathering to it. But all of the layout has digital photograph backdrops, and we've got the buildings planted, the trees and grass are down. And this is more of the city scene. Now here's the Walmart where it's more complete. Now the crossing signals are again 3D printed. You have proper road markings and crosswalks here. You've got sidewalks, all of the things that you would normally see. All of the cars have license plates. So we're adding as many details. This is supposed to be a wavy man. I just wish I had some way that I could actually make him wave. That would be spectacular. Again, kind of a shot at the Walmart, and again, the grade crossings. This just so happened that I had put in the grade crossings, and I had mentioned on Facebook that now I'm ready for the road markings, and the gentleman in Houston emailed me and said, hey, I've got a company that does exactly that. So I got a hold of him, and these were very easy to install, very, very nice units. Now this is section number 1. This is the one we've been looking at most all. This is kind of a combination. The Harbor Freight here is scratch built, but most of the other buildings or kits are modified some way. The Taco Bell down here, you see it's boarded up and there's grass growing in the concrete, and right there is a realtor sign. In Garden City, the franchisee for Taco Bell had the original style building. He was ordered to make a new one, so he actually went to a different portion of the road and built the new building, but left that one. It eventually became Pancho's Tacos, and then that too has kind of gone out. Here's the Harbor Freight. Now in Garden City, the Harbor Freight people took over the Hastings Records and Tapes building. And so I went over there, took measurements, and this is a recreation of the Harbor Freight. Actually, the signs you have on the wall are digital photographs of the real signs. And then this was an interesting building because that was a lifelike building from about like 1995. I've had that on several layouts, and actually I was going to toss it. And then I remembered that in Garden City, Kansas, there is an original Burger King structure that has changed hands multiple times, but it is now Tequila's Mexican Grill. That is their actual road sign and the colors that they painted the building into. The Denny's on this case was actually a completely built Cato structure. I took it apart, did all of the interior, added people and details on the inside, and as well as lighting. At the very bottom of the screen, you can see the realty sign for the Taco Bell across the street. Whoops, going the wrong way. There we go. Now this is a Summit Custom Cuts. It's kind of a rare bird because he's no longer doing N scale anymore. But you can see here, it kind of blends real nice with the digital photograph of actually Garden City. Then this is the intersection on the far east side. They call it the bypass connection. The only significant difference is the highway going under the bridge is 4 lanes, but they only have 1 track and I have 3, so I kind of cheated a little bit. But this should be a 4-lane highway, but all the road signs are digital photographs of the actual signs. The street lights and the road signals are all the scratch built. Here's one of the signs close up. And in this particular scene, wherever you see bushes and trees, that's where they are on the real site. Again, here's the scratch build signals, and you've got the road signs. Now, Teeter Irrigation is an actual business in Garden City. Unfortunately, they don't get their irrigation pipe by rail, but that's where I cheated a little bit. They actually get it by truck. Here's a different scene of the yard. I scratch built the storage racks, and also you've got the tubing that goes on there, plus weeds in it mixed in amongst the scrap pieces that they leave off. You've got 2 swing gates and 1 rolling gate. You've got their actual street sign. Again, you've got your grade crossing with proper road markings. And here you get a little better shot at how heavily weathered the siding is on the 3rd rail. Now, excuse me. This is the next section, section number 4. Here I have windmills. Now you can see around the base, there's a little bit of a misnomer there. That's because the motors for these are actually in the base. So I got them where I can pick them up, turn them on, set them back down, and they'll keep running. And we'll see that a little bit later. But this is where the sunlight's coming in from one of the side windows of the building. Now, when springtime gets a little bit warmer here, I definitely want to take some of the modules out and photograph them in actual sunlight. You can see where I have painted the wheels and the frames of all of my rolling stock, but where it's in the shadow or the low light of the building, you really can't see it much, but in the daylight, it really sets it off. Makes your colors pop. My personal opinion, I just like the natural sunlight better. Here's the General Mills facility. Now this truck shipping area is greatly compressed. It would have been about another 4 foot, but I wanted to keep it all on one module, so that was dramatically shortened. All of this section here is scratch built. Now the truck loading dock, this was kind of interesting because this Schneider trailer is the only one that's actually plastic. All the other trailers are paper. There's a company called Digcom that you can buy, like for instance, USF Holland. You can print it out and make as many copies of them as you want. You just put a chassis under it and they work really nice for a static display. But here you got your road markings again and your rail crossing guardings. You'll find that many business owners are very happy and very proud with their businesses. So a lot of times they will decorate them. They'll have flowers, they'll have closed security cameras. And here I scratch built some parking lot lighting. But again, you can see a lot of the cars have license plates. And now this particular instance in N scale, it's very hard to get vehicles. And I had a situation back in 2016 where I had back surgery and I was basically immobile for a whole month. So I took the advantage of taking these 400 cars, and they only come in 5 colors. So I took them apart, took the glass out, used some tacky glue to stick the body on a bamboo skewer, and then repainted them different colors. So they get a much more wide variety of what you would find in real life. In Garden City, Kansas, the Arkansas River is dry. So a lot of people use SUVs and 4-wheelers to go zooming around in the sand. So that's the representation I have there. And this photograph is actually from the riverbed, which blends real nice into the background of the layout. Now here is the grain elevator again. All told, you can see the edge of the module is right here. So this is roughly a little over about 5.5 foot long. And it obviously dominates the scenery. So this is what a real grain elevator looks like. And one of you should ask me how I did all these windows up there. Now this is behind the grain elevator. You've got your drainage ditches. You've got some height elevations. And this backdrop, which goes over the next module, is actually all one big photograph that was stretched. This gives you kind of a ground-eyes view of what it would be like if you were standing on the hill here next. You can see how tall the grain elevator really is. Now, this is the photograph that ended up being one of the best one on the entire layout. This blends really well into the scenery. You can't really hardly tell where my scenery ends and the photograph begins. Again, you've got proper grade road pavement markings, and you've got your 3D printed signals. Now, in this particular instance, I wanted something, again, I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. I actually went on Google Earth, and I'm not quite sure what you actually call these, whether they're ravines or gorges or whatever the proper name is, but I actually found this just a little bit to the south and east of Garden City, cut it out on printed it out on 2 pieces of paper, and then I cut out the very, very bottom and then traced that onto the foam board and cut that out. Then I went back to the picture and cut out along the top upper ridge and then recut that out at an angle. So this is actually is a representation of a real ravine. Here's the scene just to the next to that. This is the fire station representation. It's family day. They're playing a basketball game over here. They got barbecue grilling over there. I've got trash cans. I got flowers. I've got trees, the American flag. So this is again where I'm trying to add as many details as possible. Now on the next 2 sections here, this actually goes across a couple of sections. This is an implement dealer, American Implement, which is probably one of the largest in Western Kansas. And you notice all of the tractors and implement dealers. If you go looking for N-scale farm equipment, you almost can't find it. So I was headed to a website called 3000toys.com, and I went in there and put N-scale farm equipment, came up with nothing. Put in N-scale construction equipment, nothing. And then I remembered that at Tractor Supply, they have these little tractor-like key fobs. So I typed in the word key rings. I had 6 pages, just about every kind of tractor and construction equipment you can make. Almost all of these back here are key rings, or what they refer to as key rings. GHQ makes the combines here. And then we've got our trash and recycling bins, as well as we've got our repair shop going on. I've actually got, under this Ford tractor, I have the welder's flashlight that will go under that. And then we've got forklifts and trying to detail it. Now, the John Deere equipment on this row here is actually all 3D printed. So you can see some of the incredible detail they have in the bottom of it. I really, really enjoy it. The cows back here are way too big. I actually had to walk between a building and a hill to get to that spot to take my pictures. The cows were way over on the far side of the pen, but by the time I could get my camera set up and take pictures, they'd all wandered over to see what I was doing. And so now they're the cows that ate Chicago. Here's a little more close up. You can see what I wanted to get was the feed yard operation, which is actually in the north part of Garden City. And I've got my loading dock here, which is scratch built. And we've got, actually, this is one of the old micro machines that the tires were just monster oversized. So I spliced the tire, cut the tires in half and made them a little more scale looking. Now this is HPE. You can see the truck he's waiting to get across the road into the High Plains Energy Building. You've got this is actually the Walthers LP gas facility, but I had to turn it 90 degrees because it wouldn't fit the way they had it. So I had to do all custom piping and the other things to get that done. All of these LP tanks are 3D printed, except for these. These came with the kit. Your scratch built fencing, and every building on the layout has a foundation or a basement. Here's more of the piping that I had to scratch build to put in there, and the detailed a little bit on the loading platform. This is actually a wheat field. I had this uniquely shaped space, didn't know what the heck I was going to do with it. And then it dawned on me, well, we need a wheat field. So this is actually yellow static grass, which represents ripe wheat. And again, you've got your photographic backdrop over here. I have not yet completed the cement or concrete plant here. And now this is Fantastic Plastics. There's actually a company with that name, although this isn't their building. But I've got some containers for storage out the back here. In the front, we've got the water bottle machine. You've got your trash dumpsters. Again, you have some paper trailers, and you've got your employee vehicles parked here. Now, one interesting detail is many industries or buildings out in the county area where there are no fire hydrants or place sources of water, they will actually dig and fill up a small pit So if they had a fire, the fire truck can come, throw a hose into the lake there or the pond and use that for water to put the fire out. This is actually the Fantastic Plastics logo that I stole off their website. And I've got several different notices and signs. And one of the things I try to do is detail around the trees. When you do landscaping, a lot of times they'll put wood chips or some sort of cedar bark around the trees to make them look nicer. And you can see that I've got curbing on all of my streets. Now, for operational interest, I had the concrete plant over here to the lower left, Fantastic Plastics to the upper right. This is actually the passing siding where you come off. So I've created a switch back here. So I've got 4 hopper cars for cement powder to be delivered, but you can't take 2 locomotives and 4 cars along the lead into the plant. So you have to double the hopper cars over that switch. This is the yard in sections 15 and 16. You can see how nice and smooth the yard throats float, and the main line runs through the center of it. And so I can actually, for operational purposes, one train takes up only 2 of the tracks. So if I'm going to go to a train show and run operations, I can actually have 4 trains set up and ready to go. So as 2 go out and run, 2 are ready to go. The first 2 come in and are set. We can immediately start out with the next set. Here's the yard throat that's already painted and detailed. And this is the layout the way it is when it looks set up. This is actually inside our home metal building here in Garden City. So that's the end of that, but I do have a video. Let me escape out of that. Let me go to here. And this is very short.
You have to reshare the new screen.
Oh, let me go back here. Okay, let me get out of that. And your screen is paused. Okay, new share. Is that what I need? Okay, there we go. Now you see it?
Yes.
Robert, we're going to have to shut this down here. We're running way long.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but we're getting into well in past our time here.
Okay.
So thank you very much. And if you want to share this, we'll talk to you later and see if we can get this video where you maybe through.
Well, you can go, not this particular video, but you can go to my personal webpage, Robert Simmons on YouTube. And we have cab rides, operations, and drone chases. So that would be an interesting YouTube site to visit.
Thank you very much. Is everybody able to feel their toes now?
Yes.
All right. It's a long reach for you to get to your toes, Dave. Okay, folks, our main presentation today is by Steve Davis, who is a fantastic modeler, has a fantastic, huge layout, and he's talking to us because he is an expert in JMRI. He knows quite a bit about it, and we have to forgive the fact that he models in HO scale primarily instead of N scale. But the thing is, JMRI doesn't really care what scale you are. It works for all. So Steve, if you are ready to go, take it away and give us what you got.
Well, before I share, can you remind me how much time I have? Because I know that we ran over.
You've got 30 minutes.
All right, well then here we go. I'm going to hit my share, I think. Let's see if this works. Working. Are you seeing dispatcher screen right now with Sammy Carlisle?
Yeah,
So,
we got Sammy up there. We're good.
so this is my actual dispatcher screen for the HO scaled KCS third subdivision. And we've got radios and a telephone, and Sammy is our dispatcher. And the screen you're looking at is was created with JMRI, completely free. and no extra charges or monthly charges or anything like that, which is one of the things I love about JMRI. So as Razor said, it doesn't care about scale. It's a good tool to use for different parts of model railroading, and not everybody's going to use every feature that JMRI has, but there are quite a few different features for you to try. And what does this even? Well, so make sure I got the right slide. What does JMRI stand for? Why do they call it that? Well, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares about this gobbledygook, but just so you know what it is, it stands for Java Model Railroad Interface. I got some Java right there for you, or the fresh beans anyway. And Java is just a computer language that it runs on every operating system. Now, what's important about that, I know we're not a bunch of technical people here, but still, it'll run on a Mac or any version of Windows or a Linux machine or something like a Raspberry Pi or anything. So Java is a non-specific language. It's not, you don't need Windows 10 or Windows 7 or any specific thing or, a certain kind of Mac OS. It will run on anything. That's the reason that it's written in Java. And what does it do? Well, it's an app, some people call them, when you put them on your phone. Well, it's really a computer program, and it runs on either a computer or a laptop or, like I said, a Raspberry Pi, and it'll connect to a model railroad if you want to. And it's compatible with just about any DCC system. I think a lot of people doing N-scale are using Digitrax for the NTRaK stuff. I don't know if that's true, but whether you do or not, it will connect to just about any DCC system that's out there. It's really a Swiss Army knife for model railroaders. It has a little something for everybody. So if you want to connect it, and this frankly is one of my pet peeves, I love to program my decoders using JMRI because I can save the programming. So if something goes wrong and it loses this program, you don't have to remember or write down, what were all the CVs. The other thing I love about it is you don't have to deal with CVs. You don't have to know what the CV is. I like to run trains if it's connected to the railroad with a smartphone. There's a lot of people who have, these things, and there's nothing wrong with using throttles, but some people like to use the phones to run their trains. And since everybody already has a phone, it can be cheaper because you don't go out and buy a $125 throttle if you've already got your phone. Also, if you don't want to even plug it into your layout, it's still good to inventory all of your locomotives and rolling stock to kind of keep track of what you have and what's on the layout, what isn't on the layout, and also to generate switch lists and operations documents. So you can do those things without it being plugged in at all to the layout. And the KCS third sub, we create all of our switch lists and manifests and car, what we call it, wheel reports. It shows what's in the train. Or as Mark Montre, my friend, likes to call it the soup. And finally, you can control signals, turnouts, and other aspects of your rail. Sorry, I said turnout and not switch. To me, I'm an electrical engineer, and a switch is something that you throw to turn power on or off, and a turnout is a model railroad tool that changes the route. So in any case, but on a real railroad, it is called a switch. I grant you that. So that is, then you can also create control panels, CTC panels, and more. And you can even, and this is on the more extreme end, I agree, automate the running of some or all of your trains. On the KCS, we use it just for running trains into and out of staging because I think it's fun to run trains. So I don't want to automate them. I want to run them. And that's what I do. So let's take a look at each of these things. Wait, did I skip one? No, I didn't. I guess that's the next slide. I'm surprised, actually. So the smartphone thing is the easiest, as long as it's connected to the layout. And we'll show you how to do that in a minute. You just start this program called Y Throttle Server, and this little screen pops up. You can turn the layout on or off by clicking on these buttons, and then all it does is just sit there. And if you have an Android phone or an iPhone and you download the Engine Driver app or the Y Throttle app, or there's another one I think for Google, I don't remember the names of them all, but this will look for that, and it will show who's all logged in. Not that you care, but at least it proves that it's working, right? And you can turn on or off the layout. So finally, how do you get this? I mean, how do you get JMRI? Well, first of all, you got to have the Java part. Now, some computers have already got Java installed. So you could just go ahead and download JMRI and it might work, or it might say you need Java to run. So just to keep it simple, stupid, as they say, I'm going to step through starting with getting Java. So you go to java.com, not rocket science. Got this nice, pretty girl here. Click on Java download, and you've got follow the steps on the screen, and you'll have Java all set for you. Next thing you want is the actual JMRI program. So after you've installed the Java language, you go to this. You could actually click on this. It looks like it would take you there, but it takes you to a page that looks like this. I knew that with Zoom, I wouldn't be able to toggle in and out of different programs. So I decided I would just put it all in this PowerPoint. It'll take you to this JMRI page. It tells you a little bit about what it is. Then it lists all the different versions. A lot of gobbledygook. Just always take the one that says production release. That's like the official one. It's been tested. It's trusted. You know it's going to work. After you click on production release, it'll come up with this other screen, and then you pick the one you want. Now, again, this is all a bunch of gobbledygook, and I don't expect anybody to understand any of that crap. I don't understand it. But here's what you need to see: OS X or Mac OS. Then you click on this one. It doesn't matter what it means or says. You want the Windows version? Click on this one. You want the Linux version, which is what you get for your Raspberry Pis and some other, homemade kind of computers. You click on that. You do that, it takes you through the installation. There's no extra special tricks or unzipping or anything like that. But you're saying, okay, so what? I got this stupid computer. I got this layout, but how do I actually hook it? How do I hook the computer to the layout? I mean, I'm not an electrical engineer. I don't want to jack with that. Well, it's not that hard. You need a USB cable, and you need something for ZoomTRAK or for LocalNet. This is the best device you can get. There are plenty others, but there are other devices just like this for, I don't know, CVP or NCE or any other types of systems that you might like. So, and all of them do hook up using a USB port. So you just need something that'll plug into the USB on your computer. And even the Raspberry Pis and stuff have USBs. So you need this adapter. This one's called a Local Buffer USB, and it comes from a company called RR Circuits. And there's also one that comes with the ZoomTRAK. I think it's called an MS100 or something. Honestly, it's not as reliable. It's more troublesome. It'd be better to get this one. But if you already have it, the other one, then that's fine. So this is the RR Circuits. There's other adapters available. And once you're done, you can control anything on your railroad that your command station or throttle could control using a computer. So what I mean by that is, if you could take a throttle out and change the speed of a locomotive or select the locomotive, you can do that with your computer. If you can throw a switch with your throttle, some of the layouts have a switch where you put in a number and you hit throw or close and then the switch throws. You can do that. You can do it with your computer. So that's all it takes. That's all the wiring. That's it. Now, once you've done all that, you're going to get two icons on your desktop. It'll put them there. So you don't have to click. You can also click your start menu, and then you'll see, that stuff on the start menu. That does work. It's fine. I personally like to have the icon right there on my desktop. So you're going to get two. And this is what confuses some people. You get two programs, Decoder Pro, which is primarily for programming your locomotives, and they get something called Panel Pro, which is really for operations and everything else. Now, before you get too hung up on that, because I know that that's one of the questions I get the most. The silly part is both of them really do the same thing. You can do anything with either of these. Decoder Pro is set up so that the first thing on the screen says program locomotive. And when you click on it, it comes up with your roster and you can start right into programming. But if you didn't want to use Decoder Pro, you could just go into tools and programming and you can still get Decoder Pro. So Panel Pro, again, is where you have your switch lists and CTC panels and those kinds of things. So let's just see what that means. So if you click on Decoder Pro, you get, this will let you program a decoder using a computer rather than keying in the CVs or codes. I have different decoders. I buy stuff on eBay. I get stuff at train shows. I have things that are old. Like a lot of model railroaders, I'm cheap. I don't want to buy everything brand new or with sound already installed. So I don't want to have all these manuals. I've got, TCS decoders, Wow Sound. I've got Tsunamis. I've got the, what do you call them? Loc sound. Some people call it lock sound. I don't know why, because you don't lock your sound into this for a locomotive. But anyway, and then there's other, ones like that you can get. I don't know. What's the other one? Quantum. Heck, I could go on forever. Well, I'd need a shelf full of manuals to look up the CVs for all those things, and I would get a headache. So you don't have to know any of that crap. And I'll show you what I mean. You don't look up the CVs. You don't remember the CVs. You don't have to know about a CV. You can throw all your manuals away, put them in the fire. So here's how it works. First of all, now this is from my actual railroad, and I've got a lot of locomotives, and you can see I could scroll through and see a bunch of them. And they're in alphabetical order. So my Amtraks are first, then ATSF. So it's kind of funny because I do have a KCS railroad, and on this picture, you don't even see any KCS locomotives, but trust me, they're there. So if you already have a locomotive, you can double click on it and see what the programming is, and you can change the programming. I want the sound a little louder. I want it to accelerate faster. I want to set the top speed differently, whatever it is that you want to do. Then if the program, and I don't know if you've had this happen, but I have, if the layout has a short or somebody runs a switch, then shorts out too many times, your decoder can lose its memory. So if you got, it programmed as 1732 and you hit select 1732, it won't respond to it. So what I do is I put it back on the programming track and put the program the address back in, and it works. That whether you have JMRI or not, you can do that with a throttle. But what's better is if you made a whole bunch of settings like the acceleration, the momentum, the braking, speed tables, speed matching. If you did all that kind of stuff, you don't want to type all that back in. So you just put your locomotive on the track and just open the file for that locomotive, and bang, you can program the whole thing, every single CV. So let's show you what I'm talking about. For every locomotive, you got all these different tabs. Now the tabs are different depending on what kind of decoder you have. So JMRI is smart enough to know that because I have a Tsunami diesel and it knows it's a TSU KT1000 Kato, that it has these tabs. The tabs would be different if I had a different decoder, if I had a Quantum or something else, or a Digitrax or a Loc Sound. But and this is the basic stuff. Now I could click on all these tabs if this was the real program, but of course this is just a PowerPoint. So let's get down to brass tacks and show you how easy this is. So I put my locomotive on the track, and I think that the horn is not loud enough. So a normal person might get out a manual, try and find sound. They'd say horn volume, CV 157. I'm making this up because I don't even know what CV it is. And then you'd have to get on your throttle and dial up CV 157. And then you would try a number between 0 and 125 or 2. Yeah, is it? Yeah, 0 and 228, I think. And try different numbers and see if it's loud or not. The heck with that. With JMRI, it's like a volume slider. You slide it up, you slide it down, you hit save, and it programs your locomotive, and then you can hit the horn and hear if it's the right volume that you want or not. I don't know what any of my CVs are. And if you want to know set the momentum or the consist or any of those kind of things, set a speed table, do a speed match, all that's done with sliders like this or with drop down menus. You don't remember any CVs. That's probably my favorite thing about Decoder Pro. Excuse me. I skipped it. I thought I had more pages like that. Okay. So you could do other things. Again, consisting, things like that. I think this is a good enough example, though it gives you the idea, I hope. Then the other part of the program is something called Operations Pro, which is one of the functions in Panel Pro. You have to click on Operations, and there's different choices. So here's the trains I have on the actual KCS third sub. I love this. Now, a lot of people like to have car cards, and there's nothing wrong with those, especially though for a traveling layout. I don't know if I want to carry those around. I'm just lazy, I don't want to make the cards. I don't want to make little boxes for them. I don't want to sort through them. I don't want to pick them up if they get dropped or put them all in order. So I can be on an airplane because I still travel and work for a living. I can literally be on an airplane and hit program or hit switch list, and it'll create all these all at once. I'm done. I've just made all my op session. And then I hand people the paper when they show up. Very easy. See how I'm doing on time. I'm still doing good. Then here's what the switch list could look like, just fresh out of the box. If you don't want to do any hard work, if you don't want to actually make it look pretty, just JMRI for every train, you'll get a printout like this. Manifest for the train, It tells you what train it is, pick up these cars, and the pickups are in one color and the setouts are in another color. And you can scroll through this. And if you don't like printing a lot of stuff, JMRI also has a web server. So anybody with a phone or a tablet or an iPad can see their own switch lists on their phone. There's if you have Wi-Fi in your house or your layout. So that's kind of cool. I might go to that, by the way, Razor. I'm not doing it now, but I won't make you use your own phones, but I'll probably put tablets around because I'm just running through so much paper and burning through so much ink and stuff. It's starting to kill me. I could create a forest with all the paper I've shredded from train switch list. Here's a switch list I like. It uses a program that you download that's also free. It's called Manifest Creator. And the train list in JMRI is called a manifest. The switch list specifically in JMRI refers to something that a yard uses. So notice it folds. So I like these because they fold to where it'll fit in your shirt pocket. So the switch list can, and I have these little clipboards you can put them on. So this is intended to be folded here. And it shows you the train and what throttle number you dial up to get the train. In this case, the consist number, in this case, 96. What are the locomotives on the train? And this is kind of your manifest at first. This is like what it leaves with, and tells you how many feet and how many cars and how many tons and how many loads and how many empties. Then when you get to Marble City, you're going to set out these cars in red. When you get to Stillwell, you're going to set out these and pick up these, and on down the road. And I like that. Again, there's a million ways you can make it look. So Razor, I may actually get out of this early for you, but of course I'll be here to take questions. But that is to say, the last thing, probably the least popular, because it does take the most wiring and the most work, but it's also the most fascinating, is using it to build control panels and CTC panels and things like that. So I've got some pictures from two different railroads. At the top is my KCS third sub. And this is a condensed view of the control panel. And basically you click on these to throw the switches. You click on the signals to clear the signals. This is Sammy Carlisle's ATSF Hereford sub. Both my third sub and Sammy's have been featured in Railroad Model Craftsman. And I think this picture is from the Railroad Model Craftsman article. But in any case, we put these, I should say, Sammy put all of his own signals in, but I wired them up and we used JMRI to control the signals. And it's a nice look. It looks nice, and it's fun to control trains that way because you don't have to shout at everybody, hey, can I go through to this siding? It just makes it a little more fun and enjoyable. So that's one of the things I like about it. And there are some fancier panels you can make. This is one for a Quaker Valley. It's got the grandfather's clock and, all these different, it looks like a CTC panel, and you can click on it. And some people like to get the touch screen so they can literally touch these switches like you're throwing a real CTC panel. And then these are sort of the old-fashioned, older, looking CTC panels, but on a screen. And I think that might have been all I prepared.
But if anyone has a question for any of our presenters, again, if you want to ask a question, leave your mute on, just put your hand on your space bar and it'll activate your microphone, and you can ask any questions you want. So I'm opening up for those to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to take a look at this chat, and Bruce, if you'll help me look at that.
I had a question about the sidewalks and the curbs.
For Robert?
Robert, yeah. Also, I'm going to put up the poll now, so take a few minutes just to fill this out, please. That really helps us. So go ahead, fill that out. And Robert, are you out there?
Well, apparently we've lost Robert. So
Yeah.
If you will, I will if you will send an email.
Oh, okay. There's a question now for Steve Davis. Okay, they've received notice that support for Java has ended. Is that going to pose a security risk, and what's the deal with that?
Well, that's a really great question, and I'm not so sure I have the answer. I'll have to research it. What I would say is it depends on what you're using your computer for, right? Who is supporting, who is, I'm so sorry, who is saying that? I mean, where do you get that notice from? because I'm not getting a notice like that.
For a while, you would get it when you were doing an update to Java, but I haven't seen it of late. I think it related initially to commercial use of Java rather than private use like ourselves.
Also,
I
it
can
might
answer
be,
What I
that.
would say to that,
I think I can answer that. If you have a separate
go ahead.
wireless system that you're running at your show and you're not connected to anything else, there's nothing else that can get into your system. There's no security risk from outside.
That's a good answer. I also would just say that there are different versions of Java, and some did have security holes and they updated them. So I would say that you're probably getting a message. I need to see the actual message. You're probably getting a message that says this version of Java is no longer supported or is not secure, because what they want you to do is upload the latest one. It's the same as Windows if you run an old version. But the answer, and I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. Oh, Richard. The answer Richard gave is absolutely correct. So that's why I was kind of going to what are you using your computer for? So if you're just hooked up to your layout, it really doesn't matter, right? And just keep the old version of Java and be happy. I'm not that way. My stuff is connected to the internet. I'm on Zoom. I'm on Teams. I use it for work. I use it for everything, but I just keep the latest version of Java on. We have a very tight corporate security system where I work, and I'm here to tell you that there is no actual issue with running Java on a well-managed machine that has a firewall.
Bruce, is it safe to assume that as you upgrade to a later version, they're upward compatible? If you had an old version, you upgrade to the new one, everything.
Yeah, they all work.
yeah, there were older versions of Java that did give that error message, and at one point there was a need to actually update Java for JMRI, the newer version of JMRI to run, wasn't there, Steve?
Yeah, now there's two things. I'm going to
That goes back a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm going to answer that in Ray Ham's. Ray Ham, you're right. It says Apple has sent it to me within the last year, but more for Adobe Flash. So Adobe Flash still works, but Apple won't support it. There's a fight between Apple and Adobe. It's a lawsuit. So because of that, that's the only thing about it. It has nothing to do. Adobe Flash runs fine on my Windows machines. It will not run on a Mac because there's a fight between Apple and Adobe. But back to the other question, certain versions of JMRI, as they keep improving, need certain versions of Java. But if you want to just be old school, there's no reason to just always keep up with the Joneses. If you download JMRI and download Java and it works, keep it. Don't update either one of those two things. There's no, it's not like Windows where they'll force you at midnight, they'll update it on you. I don't know if that happens with Macs, but it does happen with Windows. But I would say keep the old version. Now you'll know if it doesn't work, you'll run JMRI and it'll stop working, or it might even tell you if you're lucky, this version of Java is not supported. It will never stop working. But I mean, if you upgrade to a newer JMRI, but usually on the JMRI page itself, it'll tell you what version of Java you need to have.
Well, that sounds like the old thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So
Now, that's me. I'm still running JMRI 14. They've gone up to 22 now, but I don't want to risk, something going wrong. Who cares? If it works, it works.
all right. Scrolling through this, I think we've addressed most of the questions I see here. Are there any more? If not, we'll start wrapping this up. Again, if you would please fill out the poll that's showing on your screen. Just answer the questions and then submit. Also, again, our next meeting is on May the 15th, which is 4 weeks from now. We have Intermountain will be our vendor presenter, and they're going to talk about some of their rolling stock. Our layout tour will be the Galt Line by Ali Sharari out of St. Louis. Our main topic will be enhanced prototype modeling with 3D CAD and printing by Ken, Harsline, I guess. I may not be pronouncing these names correctly, but there should be some very good topics. We will not have a short topic. As you notice, we've been running long on some of these. So we're going to be a little more selective, so we have a little more time with the ones we do have and try to keep this in an hour. We're at an hour and a half now, and we pretty much worn everybody out. So With that said, again, I want to thank everyone for attending today. And we hope to see you back again next month. If you know anybody who would be interested in this and is not a member of NRail, it's real easy to do. Just tell them to bring up NRail, search for it online, get the website up, and the homepage will get you right to automatically take your $10 and set you up for a year. And thanks again. If anybody has any ideas for a presentation that they would like to share and give, please go to the website and click on the box where you can contact Bruce or myself. What box is it, Bruce? Message to leadership or?
Oh, well, there's a ZoomTRAK at nrail.org address.
If you'll send a note to that, we'll get it, and then we'll contact you about getting your presentation on. We're always looking for good presentations, and I think we've had some great ones today. So thank you all again, and I hope you have a great evening and a great Sunday tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Goodbye,
Razor.
everyone. We're going to shut this down.
Thanks, guys.
Yep, great meeting. Thanks.
Thank you very much.